Today I'm going to talk about something that a lot of us have been wondering about. It's inflation. Everybody, even if they're not a financial geek, they just are concerned about their own finances. They really are surprised by the fact that inflation is going up really through the moon. Anything you buy at the store, it's going up more and more. If you eat out, especially in California, it could be a huge burden. And a lot of people think, oh, gotta focus on what the Federal Reserve is doing because they're the ones in charge of inflation policy. And they try their best to try to have some impact, like they raise rates dramatically, all the way to 5.5%. But the truth is, there's kind of a hidden source of this inflation. It's called Congress. Congress doesn't care about inflation. I mean, they could tell you that they care about inflation, but their actual actions demonstrate that they do not care about inflation. For instance, they are borrowing and literally printing $1 trillion every 100 days. And so, where does that money go? I mean, the truth is, that money ends up in the economy. It causes this money does flow and it causes greater demand than otherwise would exist. And as a result, it causes prices to increase. And so, while everybody is focused on the Federal Reserve and their interest rate policy, the one actor that no one focuses on, ironically enough, is Congress. Even though they are the ones that create literally kind of a secret level of inflation through the economy. Everybody wants to blame the Federal Reserve because they think that they're in charge of inflation, and they do have an impact. If interest rates were too low, it would have an impact. But you know how I know that? The money flow is still not tight at all. Crypto is near highs, and so is gold. If the Federal Reserve really was willing to make credit conditions extremely tight, you would not see gold near all-time highs. You would not see crypto near all-time highs. You wouldn't see stocks that clearly don't have much value, like GameStop. You wouldn't see that going all over the place and to the moon and all that stuff. That's a sign that there's still kind of excess liquidity. And also, when politicians tell you, hey, we got inflation under control, or the rate of inflation is going down, a lot of people I think, oh, does that mean prices will go down? No, they're not. They're not going to go down. The only thing that happened was the rate of inflation. So, if inflation was for a while 8% and then it became 5% and now it's 4%, well, you got a lot of inflation baked in, and it's not going to disappear overnight. I mean, the fact that in a weak economy you're seeing quite a number of stocks reaching all-time highs. That's another kind of indication that there's kind of a excess liquidity that goes through the system. And there's a reason why inflation is baked in, and we're not going to be able to solve it. Even though every single person in the U.S. cares about inflation, almost nobody's going to tell their member of Congress, you know what? Yeah, you should cut the budget maybe 20, 30, maybe 40%. You need to really stop borrowing. You need to stop printing money, and so I'm willing to let you cut things dramatically. Maybe Medicare or Medicaid needs to be cut back. I mean, obviously that's not going to even happen. But nobody is cutting anything in the federal government. Not a single thing. Every single year, they actually spend more than the last. So why is that? Do you really think that we couldn't cut back on any single thing? So the problem ultimately with inflation is not necessarily Congress, because the truth is they're responding to what people think, and they know that if they were to cut back, that people would throw them out of office. So maybe the problem is the fact that people have this strong desire to continue to spend money. They want Congress to spend money on all their pet projects and things that they think are important, but they're paying for it through the hidden tax, because the reason why inflation is chosen as the method of taxation is because that's the least it's the least accountable way of paying for the federal government. For instance, okay, if they were to raise taxes, they would have that recorded vote. You could know the names of all the people who were responsible for raising the taxes, and you probably would, a lot of you would throw them out. So that they can't do that. Instead, what they do is they spend more than they take in. Like they have $5 trillion of tax money coming in, so they'll spend $7 trillion because they can't balance the books because they always want to spend more and buy more votes. So as a result, there's that extra level of inflation baked in the system, and then when people start complaining, the politicians will divert your attention. They'll say, "Oh, that's greedy business people. That's big oil. That's big Snickers. That's big Starbucks. That's big this, big that." They love to deflect, and they'll say that the problem, the reason inflation is getting out of control isn't because of them. They're really pointed towards others. But the truth is, corporations don't want to raise prices dramatically because it turns off customers and there are less sales. So that's actually really not. That's like the most idiotic way to run a business. That's not how businesses work. They don't want to raise prices dramatically. They're only raising prices dramatically because they have to. Like in California, they thought the way to solve inflation is to cause more inflation. They created this fast food law. The minimum wage has to be $20 if you work at fast food. Well, guess what? All the fast food companies just raised the price of food dramatically, and now fast food is now a luxury item in California. Great job. I mean, it's almost like they thought, well, we can benefit the minimum wage workers, give them a raise so they can afford higher the standard of living that exists in California, which is extremely expensive. They thought, oh, we can make it possible for them to afford things. Well, that didn't work out so well. Now people don't buy fast food, and now a lot of those people will be losing their jobs to be replaced by robots, and maybe people just won't go to fast food so much anymore. And so the truth is, we have to point to where the problem is. The problem is really the government. And the Federal Reserve tries, but they can't. They have no control over Congress. They can raise rates, but they can weaken the economy. But that would probably encourage Congress to spend even more money in order to fix the problem, which of course would cause even more inflation and more problems. So it is possible that the real truth is Congress is not going to bail us out. We need to think about just making sure that most of our money is probably in alternative assets like gold or Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, probably mostly Bitcoin. The truth is, Congress has no control over the flow of Bitcoin. They can't print it. They can't change the code and cause Satoshi to come back and print a whole bunch more Bitcoin. So the truth is, this is going to be a tough one because a lot of people, they still place their faith in the dollar, maybe not as much as they used to. But the inflation problem is not going to really be solved on a gargantuan on a gargantuan level. The truth is, they are not willing to cut spending, and maybe they're just crazy. Maybe they just are willing to just let everything collapse just because they can't think of any other job they would be able to do. They just know how to buy votes, and it's not the hardest thing in the world to do. Anybody could do that. You have a staff, and it's like, oh, okay, let's just keep spending money. So yeah, you should expect that inflation will continue. I definitely don't believe that inflation is going to disappear. I feel that we're in a time period where inflation will actually even accelerate, and at some point in time, the Federal Reserve will do some things that people might think are crazy today, but we might end up having interest rates going back to where they were in the 80s. Maybe they reached 20%. I don't think that the federal government can afford to pay interest at that kind of level anymore, but who knows? I mean, we live in extreme times, so that's definitely a possibility. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share this video with someone else who might be interested in monetary policies. See you in the next video.